The house was quieter than usual that night. It was the kind of silence that swallowed every sound, that pressed down on your chest until even your own breathing felt too loud. The wind outside rattled the windows, dragging branches across the roof. Somewhere inside the walls, the old radiator hissed and sighed like something half asleep. It was the middle of winter, the kind of cold that seeps into the floorboards and settles inside your bones. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The clock ticked endlessly, each second falling heavier than the one before. The snow outside had turned gray beneath the streetlight, dull and lifeless. Shadows wavered against the curtains, stretching and folding like slow, silent waves. Then, from somewhere in that heavy quiet, I heard it. My name. It wasn't loud, not a whisper either, just a steady, familiar tone, my father's voice, coming from the end of the hallway, from his room. I didn't think twice. He must have needed something. I pushed off the blanket, and the cold hit me like water. The wooden floor was freezing under my bare feet. I didn't turn the light on. I knew every inch of this house by heart. The narrow hallway stretched ahead, black and still. My father's door was slightly open, a thin stripe of yellow light spilling into the dark. I nudged it open. He was standing by the window, gray pajamas, a cigarette burning between his fingers. Smoke curled lazily in the dim glow of the lamp. His back was to me, shoulders slouched, staring outside. "Dad?" He didn't move at first. When he finally turned, his face was calm, too calm. His eyes looked hollow. "What is it, sweetheart?" "I thought you called me." He frowned, confusion flickering for a second. "No, I didn't call you. Can't sleep." I shook my head, suddenly unsure. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe it was just the wind echoing through the walls. I must have heard wrong. He gave a tired smile. "Get some rest. It's late." He stubbed out the cigarette and turned off the light. Back in bed, I couldn't shake the chill. My heartbeat thudded against the silence. Too fast, too loud. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him again. The look in his eyes when he said he hadn't called me. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, everything was normal. The smell of coffee, the sound of the newspaper rustling, the usual routine. My mother was quiet as always. My father sat at the table, hidden behind the pages. I wanted to tell them what happened, but I didn't. It would sound ridiculous. But that night, the voice came again. At first from the living room, then the kitchen. Always the same soft tone, my father's voice calling me, "Come here, sweetheart." Each time I froze, listening, my breath caught in my throat. But every time I checked, he was asleep. His door closed, his breathing deep and steady. One night I heard footsteps. Mine, but not mine. As I walked back from the kitchen, another set of footsteps echoed behind me, matching my pace exactly. When I stopped, it stopped. When I climbed the stairs, it climbed with me. And when I turned around, there was nothing. Just the dark, swallowing everything. I told myself it was the pipes, the house settling, anything but what it felt like. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. A few nights later, my father came home late. I sat on the couch, the TV on but soundless. When he entered, I blurted out, "Did you call me earlier?" He looked puzzled. "No. Why?" "I heard your voice again." He chuckled nervously, then shook his head. "You've been watching too many scary movies." I didn't laugh. He stared at me a moment longer. This house makes weird sounds sometimes. The wind, the pipes, who knows? Don't think too much about it. That night, the wind was harsher than ever. It howled through the cracks, scraping the windows like fingernails. Around 3 a.m, I heard it again. Only this time, it was right outside my door. "Come here," said my father's voice. I froze. My throat went dry. Then, the door handle turned. Slowly. It was locked. I was sure I'd locked it. But something pressed from the other side. A shadow slipped under the crack of the door, stretching across the floor like a black stain. "Dad?" I whispered. No answer. Just breathing, heavy, slow, wet. I pulled the blanket over my head and didn't move until morning. When I finally got up, the house was still. My father was drinking coffee, eyes sunken. "Did you come to my door last night?" I asked. He looked at me for a long time before replying. "No," he said quietly. "But I thought I heard your door open." Something inside me went cold. After that, things changed. My parents stopped talking much. My mother began sleeping on the couch. My father's light stayed on all night, and I kept hearing it. The voice, the breathing, the soft shuffle in the hallway. One evening, brushing my teeth, I caught something in the mirror. The bathroom door was half open, showing the dark corridor behind me. For a brief second, I saw my father's face there, watching me. But he was asleep. I had just heard him snoring minutes ago. In the mirror, his mouth moved. "Come here, sweetheart." The toothbrush fell from my hand. The reflection flickered, and the door was closed again. After that night, I covered every mirror in the house. Even my phone screen made me uneasy. Then my mother disappeared. Her coat was still on the hanger, her phone on the table. She had simply vanished. My father didn't call the police right away. He just sat there staring at nothing. When I asked where she was, he said only, "We'll find her." But that night, I heard her voice too. "Help me," she whispered. "Come upstairs." The sound came from the attic. I climbed the ladder, the air thick with dust. My flashlight trembled in my hand. The attic was empty, except for a piece of gray fabric lying in the corner, my father's old pajamas, torn and stained with something dark. When I went back down, he was sitting in the living room. His eyes were red, face pale. "Did you find Mom?" I asked. He didn't look up. "She's not here anymore." "Did you hear it too?" I whispered. He nodded slowly. "Sometimes I hear your voice," he said, calling me from the hallway. But when I open the door, there's no one there. The room seemed to shrink around me. The next thing I remember is waking up in bed. The air was frozen, the radiator dead. The house was empty. No sound, no movement. My father's cigarette still burned in the ashtray, but he was gone. And then, from the walls, that voice again. "Come here, sweetheart." I ran to the door. It turned but wouldn't open. The hinges groaned, the wood refused to move. I turned to the window. Outside was nothing. No snow, no lights, just endless fog swallowing the street. And then I heard it again. This time, behind me, right inside the room. "I didn't call you, sweetheart," said my father's voice. But it wasn't him standing there.